Hey, Vinny Malkus Outdoors. It's been a little bit. Today I'm gonna do a review. Sorry, my finger's in the way. I'm gonna do a review on crawfish stuff because we're getting into spawn. It's actually in the south. It's there are your fish on beds, Texas, whatnot. But here in the Midwest and you get up north, they're not there yet. We're getting to the point where I took the wrong. They're at least pre-spawn, and there's been some up shallow. I've seen them in some of the local ponds. But then you get these fronts like this and pushing it back, so you don't have a whole lot. You don't really have maybe some early bedders, maybe got smallmouths or whatever that are pushed up on beds. But crawfish baits are really good for bed fish or just in general. Here's the thing though. So the reason why I'm doing this video is I was in Walmart of all places, and Walmart's not necessarily known for its great tackle selection, but you can get they carry a few things, especially like Ned. There's Ned rigs in there. There's some Booyah stuff, there's striking, packs. But one of the things they just started carrying where I'm at, or I just ran into this Walmart, is Tackle HD, and that's why we're doing the crawfish thing. Tackle HD, if you're not familiar with them, is a company that does, they 3D scan stuff, well, particularly this crayfish, 3D scan it, create a mold, and, and create the bait. So they turn out ultra realistic, and they seem to be pretty good quality. And if they're at Walmart or whatever contract they have, I haven't checked other Walmarts around, but if they happen to be at Walmart, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good deal. That means Walmart's kind of stepping up their game. I mean, like I said, they have Z-Man, they have a few Cincos and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. But anyway, so we're gonna get into that. Real quick, I'm going to compare them to what I believe is the best craw, and then maybe another one that's 3D molded. So I'll just go ahead and just say, so I'll compare them. I'm going to grab Huddleston. If you're not familiar with that, Huddleston has a couple different, they're the same mold, but they have two different craws. One is just the typical color, whatever the color comes out of the, whatever plastic coloring they have in there. The second one, which is my favorite, they're hand painted, and they look ultra realistic. Plus the plastisol that he uses or whatnot, and the way the mold is on that crawfish makes the appendages very lifelike. I'm sorry, I'm trying to stabilize this. The second is the Savage Gear one, and I believe theirs is also 3D scanned and then injected. And of course, you're going to see the difference in coloring on there. And then I'm going to compare it to this Tackle HD. I went ahead and just picked one up at Walmart that's like. I don't know, it's got the orange and the olive color on there, just like you'd see in a lot of crawfish colors. So we got that. It's just a little 3-inch. What I am seeing, and I'm going to show you that, is for different jig heads and different ways of rigging them, if you just put them all equal, like these things are, all three of them are great, but there is going to be differences in the way you want to rig these, or it's going to give you a preference in rigging. So if you're like, you want to throw it on a jig head, on a mushroom jig head, let's say you're throwing a Ned rig and you just, let's pop this thing on, you're going to want a different one in general than one you have with a ball head, or one you're going to throw with like a NACO, or just a whatever, a NACO hook or a drop shot hook or whatever. So I'll go into that. In fact, we're going to go into that right now, but happy intro. Like, subscribe, help me keep this thing growing, because I'd like to actually get it somewhere where it pays for itself. Appreciate the support. All right, so here we are. We got our Savage Gear Crawdad. Like I said, this is like a 3D craw as well. We got our Huddleston, hand painted. They also make just a straight in, well, they're injected, but this one's hand painted as well. But they also do one that isn't, and it's just the plastisol coloring. And then you have, and this one's kind of old, but man, he's still awesome. Then you have your Tackle HD, which now apparently is at Walmart, so that's pretty awesome. Now, what you'll see here is, here's some differences. We'll go straight to the Savage Gear, which I believe these are floating. They have like a cavity in here. And they also have this area where you can butt up against it with a jig head or a mushroom head. But for this, especially these larger ones, more for flipping, NACO rig and whatnot. And I'll point this out because it's going to be a disparity between the Tackle HD and the other ones, the Huddleston. is this one has its little whiskers, and they are segmented in such a way they dance around fairly well. But ultra realistic. It kind of looks like an insert, but like a plastic insert. But that might be how they get the cavity in there, because you can feel there's a little bit of a air pocket, and that's probably why it floats. But anyway, very detailed when it comes anatomically. Color wise, yeah, I mean, there's even some of the other colors, perhaps not the greatest, but we don't need to get too deep in the woods typically. I mean, we all know that color does play a role, but color seems to play more of a role in the ability for the fish to actually track the bait. Now let's go to the Huddleston. The Huddleston, some of them have there's consistency and inconsistency with these, and you'll notice that on these Savage gears they're very consistent. The pour is good. I forgot to go over that. Segmented tails section. Everything is fairly consistent. The plastic itself isn't the softest, but I mean it's good. It's good. The Huddleston is very detailed as well. And in fact, all the way down to the head. If you look at the head, now granted some of them, I think this guy's antennae have been kind of snapped off a little bit, because sometimes they, it actually hooks onto this and they're so delicate it just like pulls off through resistance. But if you notice here, we can get this hair off. Hand painted, looks just like a crawfish or a crawdad in the water. I mean, these little specks here. The tail is very realistic. From looking above, the head is as well, and he hand paints those eyes, and you can see this segment here on the head is amazingly detailed. I don't know if the camera can do it justice. The plastic is very supple. It's in such a way that these things dance in the water. This thing dances in the water. His claws move around. I mean, this is one of the most remarkable crawfish imitators that I've had the privilege of fishing with and have caught a lot of bedfish off of. And I can't see, even on the bottom side where the legs attach on this thing is remarkably detailed. It also has a little segment here for rigging with like a jig head or whatnot, but these ones used to come. Now some of the newer ones don't. See this little metallic insert here, and you could put weights on here. They came with weights, so it'd float down just kind of like you see a crawdad. If you ever threw in a crawdad in the water, or he'd drop him, he kind of glides down, and then he might kick off. But you have those weights here, and then an ability or a little area to rig a hook, like a drop shot hook or a NACO hook, right through the head of this thing. And I think I've gone over this one before. So that's your Huddleston. They come in a variety of hand painted colors, and also the injected ones. They're non-hand painted. Now here we go. Here's your Tackle HD. This one is a relatively new company, and they did a 3D model of a crayfish or crawdad, and started injecting them. And now you can see here the color scheme is fairly well. It's kind of blended in. They have a few other colors that look really natural, and then some that are like white and shad color, which I guess would help you see it on the bed. When I look at this, the detail around the tail and I guess the thorax is pretty good. It's not as, I wouldn't say it's on, well, I guess we'll start comparing. I wouldn't say it's on par with the Huddleston, but there is a little, I would say it's slightly less than the Savage, and that could be due with just I don't know, their mold or something. But they do have a segment here, which it's like almost like a human parietal plate right here in the mid thorax that it does show on this one as opposed to these other crawfish. The eyes are pretty good, but they're not distinct, like with different color, like where you can contrast. They're there, but just because it's injected, you can't tell, and maybe the fish can tell, I don't know, or even if they're even looking at it. Doesn't have antennae like the others. It has a weird tail segment here. So it's a split tail, and then you have this little flat body for rigging the jig head. And then you go to the head, and you could rig it with one of those little drop shot NACO hooks as well on this one, but it wouldn't. You'd have to make sure you're on that flat edge there. Now the legs and appendages on the bottom, not as detailed as the Huddleston, but a little bit better than the Savage gear. The plastic is, for being injected, I mean, it's real stiff in the main body, but the appendages, the claws or whatnot, are very supple, and they seem like they would dance around really well in the water. Now let's get into some of the rigging. Now when I'm going, like I said in the beginning, it's like, well, they're all good. And when do you use which one? You can use either three in any of the methods I'll mention, but I prefer one or two over the other when it comes to certain rigs. So like flipping, maybe even Carolina rigging, and certain like heavier NACO rigging. I like the Savage. It's just, the plastic in the tail for rigging is a little bit stiffer. You do have that cavity, so when you do flip, you have that hook, and it kind of, there's a little bit of give for the hook to pop out. And then sometimes NACO rig, because you can still hook this, like, let's see, I had a hook here. Oh, like this guy here, this is having to be a big drop shot. You can still hook it through the nose and put your NACO weight in the tail. There's that portion there, and it seems to work out all right. Or you can throw it in the thorax there, and good. Now, for throwing on, whether it be a mushroom head jig head or with these smaller drop shot hook or NACO hook, my go-to one is this guy, is the Huddleston. And in clear water, when there's a clear water situation where we really need the utmost realism, and I have seen it where it does make it has an impact, the Huddleston is my go-to. One, just the action, the paint job on it, the way this thing moves in the water, it's amazing. But anyway, I picked this one for like the mushroom head because the mushroom head will lay flat against the tail. No questions asked. But most of the time when I am using this one, what I do is I either have those weights. If I don't have them, because they're hard to come by, put a NACO weight in the tail here, and then I nose hook it with, like, I got a number 4 that I use on this one, or this one isn't a number 4, but I mean, just this is over exaggeration, or like a small number 6 NACO, and you just rig it right there and lay it, and then that bait, back scuttles down in there, and you kind of crawl it forward. So that's what I use that one primarily for, like I say, clear water, and then those real small hooks and NACO rigs. Now this guy, because of the unique nature of how this tail is split, I prefer him with a round ball head jig, just because of the way it sits on there, and it kind of flares this around. But the ball head seems to sit on this a little bit better, and then you can also rig it with one of those little hooks like this. But like I said, in general, if I'm going to go throw this around, or throw around for smallmouth, just covering water bouncing off rocks with a jig head, I'm going to toss this dude on. And it seems to work fairly well, as, like, I guess it would be like a grub trailer. But the ball head will sit in here perfectly. And I guess you can throw the mushroom head on there, but I just tend to like the ball head jig head on this. Or even you could put a darter, but I throw this with a ball head primarily. And when I'm just casting for smallmouth, and you might come across better, whatever, but just casting around, and no particular target outside of, I'm actually targeting structure, and maybe you might come across the bed or whatever, but I'm just targeting those areas, and maybe a little bit deeper water. And I'm not necessarily sight fishing, I'm just fan casting. Like I said, just inexplicably, or maybe I suspect there might be a bed somewhere, and I'll throw it over there, and I'll fish this dude. So we have these kind of more flipping in larger NACO rig style thing. I'll go with the Savage. Realism and small hooks, NACO rig type deal, front hooked, and sometimes even a jig head, this guy. And then primary use for jig head, it'd be on this Tackle HD. But so to get to this Tackle HD deal for the mass, the only thing I noticed is, like you see here, there's a miss, I don't know, shooting of the plastic, so it's a little off. But in general, for something that you're going to be able to find at Walmart now and around, this is a good bait. The accessibility, because that's a factor in getting some of these baits. Now this one's semi-accessible. You usually can find these at like Bass Pro and maybe even Academy. I just know you can find them at Bass Pro and Cabela's. Generally you have a pretty good shot at finding Savage. Huddlestons, you have to order these. They're like a tackle warehouse, hookup tackle, or Huddleston Hud baits, and there can be a wait time, so that the availability of these is definitely less than the Savage. Now this thing, these are probably the newest brand of the three, and they are typically found like in the Midwest or whatever, but and you can get them on Tackle Warehouse and that. But now, like I said, I saw them there. Walmart's starting to carry these, so if Walmart starts to carry these, this could be the go-to bait, because just the accessibility or the availability of being able to get a hold of these as opposed to these other two might lend itself to I can stock up on this. If I get on some fish and I actually need to go and get some more, I can. Where these other ones, you're doing emergency orders on the night of the tournament or the last practice day to get some of these in. I mean, if you get to that point, I don't anymore. I don't read too much into it. I'll find another bait. But there are times when fish are really locked onto a certain bait. But anyway, that's my analysis of the 3 craws for bed fishing, and kind of a review of them, and more primarily into that new Tackle HD and the fact that you can find this thing at Walmart now, which I don't know if it's any other Walmart. So I picked this one up at one, and I was pretty astounded that a quality product like that is now being introduced. And there has been some products that are really good that Walmart's starting to carry. Like I said, got Z-Man, some Yamamoto stuff, Booyah, some Strike King stuff. Enough that I almost thought about well, maybe I should fish a tournament, and all I do is go to Walmart and buy stuff from Walmart, and that's all I can use. I mean, I've thought about it because but now it's like Walmart's not that bad. Maybe not. Obviously it's not a Sportsman's Warehouse or a Tackle Warehouse or any of those big names brands, but it's nice to have it because there's Walmarts everywhere, obviously. Anyway, like, subscribe, talk to you later, peace.